This is Grapplers Talk.
What is up, fans of Grapplers Talk? This is Dave coming at you with another episode each and every week. Thank you to the fans for downloading and tuning in to the podcast and making my dreams a reality. I thank you to everyone out there for participating in Grapplers Talk and all the support we get out there from messages and people purchasing our gear and everything out there. Thank you so much to everyone. And first off, I just got to thank our partners out there, Butterfly X Rash Guards. Go check them out on their website, BFX Gear on Instagram. If you enter our code word Grapplers Talk 10, you'll get 10% off of your rash guards over there. And they're constantly dropping new products and rash guards. So go check them out. Give them some love. Give them some support. And we're always brought to you by our good friends over at Spar Bar Soap, providing the best antibacterial training soap for us, taking care of us. And we're always out there to give them love and support. They're amazing team, husband and wife duo out there making the best quality soap and at an affordable rate too for people to get homemade soap, and it's really good. And I've been using it. I love it. I love the smells. It's a great product, and I'm not just saying it. I really like the product. I also got to give another shout out. I'm sorry, I'm taking a lot of time in this one, but I'm giving a lot of love out there. My friends over at Obicano, man, they make the best gear. My friend over there gave me a nice pearl weave black belt, and this thing is beautiful. I cannot say enough good things over about Obicano, and they're making some awesome gear there. They're not even a sponsor. They're just friends of the show. So shout out to them. They don't give me anything but love and support. So truly out there doing the damn thing in the jiu-jitsu community. But I'm honored to have officially the first female athlete jiu-jitsu competitor on the show. And I don't know what has taken me so long. I've been reaching out to different ones, and this one just worked out, and I'm thrilled to have on a black belt and competitor out there, Lawrence Sachs. And thank you very much for being a part of this episode of Grapplers Talk. And I just want to get into your story. Let's hear it. How did you get involved into jiu-jitsu, into grappling? What made you go that direction, and when did you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me, of course. And I was doing martial arts as a kid and as a teen, and I was doing karate and kickboxing, and I loved gaming, and those things were all feeling really good together. But I kind of started to realize when I was a teen, like some of this didn't feel that effective. And so I quit and I said, oh, I'll probably get back to martial arts at some point. And after college, I wasn't sure what I was going to do with my life. I had scheduled this trip in South America where I was going to go woofing and work on organic farms. I was going to go solo. I was really excited. And I said, in the meantime, I should probably get my self-defense skills back up. That would probably be a good idea.
Do you mind if I stop you? I don't know
Yeah.
what woofing is.
WOOF is Worldwide Organized Organic Farming. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a website where you can find places where you can volunteer to help farms that specialize in sustainable agriculture and
Wow.
or organic farming. Yeah, really cool. And they'll often host you and give you an intro to the place. And I've heard great things from other people that have done it around the world.
Wow.
Yeah, really cool. So I was excited about doing that and kind of putting my trip together. And like I said, I was like, oh, I should get back into some self-defense. And so I just Google searched, kind of martial arts near me and found this gym that looked pretty good that did kickboxing and jiu-jitsu. And I really didn't know anything about jiu-jitsu. I hadn't done any grappling or wrestling. And at this point, I'm 21, fresh out of college. I'm like, oh, I'll go try this place out with my friend. And I already know what kickboxing looks like a little bit. So I'll watch that class and I'll do a free intro for the jiu-jitsu. And it was so different, and honestly, so it was kind of weird, where you're
Yeah.
we're in these funny positions, but they're really technical and they're really step by step. And I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. This seems legit. So I signed up, and about 3 months into it, I was I was already starting to stay and watch the advanced class, and I was like really interested in learning more. This was kind of old school where I don't think I was sparring that much, but I was moving along on that kind of beginner, like old school Gracie progression. And by a few months after that, I was going like 5 days a week.
Yeah.
I did my first tournament and like tapped both of the chicks, and it was just that like,
That
wow, wait a
rush,
minute.
right?
Yeah, oh my gosh, it was crazy. Yeah, exactly. Just so nuts and so like white belt spaz, like yeah, just full sloppy kind of technique, but so much fun. And I
Yeah.
said, I think I'm gonna like just do this. And so I canceled my trip. I just ended up getting super involved and fully down the rabbit hole. And I think by the next year I had done like 10 tournaments and was just like, this is the path that I'm doing. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's kind of how I started.
It's crazy how jujitsu does that to people, and I don't know what it is about it, but it is a very addictive martial art. Like I see people get addicted to hobbies and things like that, and I have a cousin, he got addicted to mountain biking, but jujitsu is a different type of addiction. Once you get that rush and that feeling of being successful and being, having that victory in a tournament, like it's hard to replace it. You
Mhm.
just go chasing it and more knowledge, and it's really incredible what it does to us.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think too the ability to say all I really have to do, especially in the beginning, is show up to class and try to focus and try hard. Like you don't really have this big onus of like, what do I do next? How do I improve? Like that can be kind of out of your hands for like
Right.
at least the first like few years. And I feel like that clarity and like this is how I get better at something and how I move forward is probably like, at least I know for me, that felt really good.
Yeah, the problem solving aspect in jujitsu, like it's constant problem solving, and you're constantly trying to figure out a way out or in or to pass the guard or whatever it is, right? And
Mhm.
man, the people that really thrive off of the challenge in life are people that really do well in jujitsu, and usually you see them at the black belt level eventually, right?
Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
So, let's talk about your competition and like what was your mindset? You now going from, just trying it out and just getting your feet wet with it to going to 10 competitions in a year. What was kind of the shift in focus, and how did you take things a little bit different when training for that?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good question. I think that for me, I had done some sports like growing up, but I never really took anything like competitively really seriously. I was never like my high school was really small. We basically didn't have any like serious sports teams, or really any at all. And so this was kind of the first time where I was like, oh, like I feel kind of successful at this. And I really wanted to, once I started to have that taste of success, I wanted to see like, man, how far can I push that? And I feel like jujitsu is really unique in that maybe there's other sports that do this as well, but you can say, I'm gonna fight the best white belts in the world and the best blue belts in the world and have that opportunity kind of right off of the bat, as long as you can find a way to like financially make it happen.
Yeah, very
Um,
true.
and so I think having that opportunity, I said, hey, I'm still relatively young. Like I can kind of structure my life around doing this and like, working as chill a job as I can to make
Yeah.
some money, but like really be able to focus on jujitsu. Um, and see like, hey, if part of my focus shift was I wanted to tell myself I'm going to treat myself like a professional athlete, even though I'm not. And I'm going to really try that on, even though I'm not like there or doing that full commitment. And those things I think really helped me sometimes compete kind of above my level.
Yeah.
Where you're saying, hey, like I'm really confident because I know my conditioning is unreal. I know that my nutrition is just so solid. And so saying, hey, my technique still has a long way to go, but I'm still fighting other white belts, other blue belts, and I'm making these other areas of my life really dialed, was a really cool experiment. And I think that that definitely helped me have a lot of success in those early belts where I was missing that, like, I wasn't coming from like a gymnastics background or
Yeah.
like, those areas I had a lot of catching up to do for sure.
Yeah, man, it really is incredible what jujitsu teaches you about yourself, right? There's so
Mhm.
many different areas you can improve, and battling adversity and the ups and the downs of grappling, it makes you a stronger person, I believe, in life.
Yeah.
Um, what kind of things do you keep in your diet, and how do you dial things in when you are competing on a regular basis?
Mhm.
A lot of people have different approaches to it, and I feel like the younger crowd, they can get by with the cheeseburgers and the fast food meals every once in a while, but for me at least, as I've gotten older, I can't do that so much. I definitely feel it in practice, and I get a little heartburn and things like that from time to time. So how do you treat your diet as a competitor, and what are some of like the little secrets you have?
Yeah. So I think one of the big things is finding a balance that works for you. Because I definitely oscillated between that, like, this is so strict that I can't have a social life and it's, becoming like kind of
A
disorder.
chore.
And
Yeah.
that's where, like you're falling asleep and you're dreaming of like eating candy and then panicking in your dream. You're like,
Yeah,
this may
feeling
be a
like you
little
ate it.
extreme.
Yeah.
And I think that so one other thing so I'd say finding balance. Another aspect would be like get other experts, like I worked with a nutrition coach who was at the time at one of these old Max Muscle places.
Yeah.
And that at least gave me a baseline. Hey, it was a little like too like bodybuilding oriented, but at least it really emphasized to me like how much protein you need and like how to balance all of these things where I maybe thought in the past, oh, eating healthy means eating a salad. Like, no, you need protein, you need carbs, you need healthy fats, you need
Yeah.
fibers and greens, like, and just getting that more well-rounded understanding. So having someone who knew more than I did and using them as a resource, that helped a ton and like kind of set the baseline. And then I think with that, the third thing would probably be just having it be an evolving experience where, what works for you is going to be different from, your friend over there and for your coach and for this person. And so, hey, go with those general guidelines of I need all these food groups. I need to have greens. I need to have enough protein and carbs to fuel all my workouts and fats, of course. But how exactly you can like what times you consume those, how much, what feels good to you so that you feel effective. You're going to have to kind of experiment and figure that out for
Right.
yourself, on some level. And I think that's another, just to tag on one thing for your question. The big skill is learning how to check in with yourself and find out like, do I feel good? Do I feel like heavy? Do I feel tired? Do I feel energized? And you do that same thing for comp day. One big thing that I liked about competing a lot as a white and blue belt, and through purple, of course, too, was that I got to experiment a lot and say, hey, this competition doesn't really matter. It's a local whatever. Let me try this and see how I feel. Does it feel good for me to like bulk a lot and like just eat a lot and feel like I'm really big? Or does it feel good for me to like be really lean and like really cut? Or am I just tired then? So using those early competitions or those kind of like lower pressure competitions as chances to experiment and then learn from those experiments, I think was really helpful.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's as much as you want to take it serious and everything, even if it's a big tournament at blue belt, it really isn't the end of your jujitsu journey by any means. So
Mhm.
you can try different things, you can experiment, find out what works for you. That's the goal and the purpose throughout those lower belts, is to find out what works. So by the time you get the black belt, hopefully you have it figured out. But
Mhm.
even at that level, everything changes so rapidly, in jujitsu, the game's always evolving. And, this is one truly unique martial art that just doesn't quit,
Mhm.
and there's different trends and different things that come along with jujitsu that evolve it so much. And, how do you take an approach to like the evolution of it? Like a lot of people are training with those slanted walls and things like that in their gym, and
Mhm.
The 80cc rule set is a very popular one now. So a lot of gyms are, doing 80cc round night, and are you taking those kinds of approaches with your game of jujitsu?
I think that the way that I personally integrate kind of that evolution of jujitsu is mostly I just try to follow jujitsu, follow all these people on Instagram or whatever. You're gonna see cool new stuff, and hopefully what it does is it gets you excited and say, whoa, like that was really cool. Like, how can that fit into my game? Like maybe some only a few years ago, I don't think I'd never done a Troy bar before, and it didn't even exist in my mind. And then, David and I will kind of feed off of each other. David, my partner, David Mitchell, from One World and from Black Sheep, will he advances really quickly in the meta. And I feel like in feeding off of each other, I'm like, all right, let me try this Troy bar thing. And then suddenly it just like locks right in. So I think you don't have to always be, chasing the dragon of new tech, but having that openness of like, hey, could this work well for me, especially in slots where you maybe haven't had as much success. Like for me, bottom half guard was like a red alert. I don't want to be here. Man, I
Yeah.
just can't find success. I never sweep people. It's just
Yeah.
the beginning of the end. And then there was like getting that Choi bar down. Oh, suddenly I'm putting people on the defense. Also like I like to, try to do seminars occasionally. And I did a Fionn Davies seminar, and she just real quickly just glanced on the idea of arm dragging from bottom half. And that was like the light bulb went on. I was like, oh, whoa. And suddenly I was just hitting it on people. And so I think having that exposure, having kind of an open mindset, but not a like, I gotta, the over pressure of, needing to learn the next new thing.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's really helpful. And then I think also acknowledging the areas where you're strong and like where it makes sense for you to move forward. And what I mean by that is like, hey, I'm 36, like it's gonna be rare that I focus on like a heel hook oriented game. I've already had one knee surgery. I don't want to have a bunch more. And
Right.
so like where's your risk tolerance, like where are injuries tending to happen, and like if that's not for you, that's okay, so I'll adapt. Like I'll still do super fights, maybe an 80 cc's in the future. Like, hey, heel hooks are fun, and I feel like on some level it's like as long as you're smart and you like tap when you need to tap, you'll be okay. So as long as I can get into that and stay out of my like competitive ego, then it's definitely a possibility. And so I think that is like you're saying, like train the styles that you want to compete and train in.
Yeah.
And that is really the way to do it.
Yeah, you touched on something briefly, and drawing influence sometimes, and sometimes it's just one little thing or one little movement that can really unlock a whole different atmosphere of your jujitsu game, and
Mhm.
it's wild how that is in jujitsu, and you got to really have a open mindset, a creative mindset to be able to unlock these secret moves,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Oh,
That's
yeah.
what it's like.
Mhm.
But yeah, I want to talk about Backwoods BJJ, and we got that coming up. But man, Rob is doing some very special things over there, and he just got done with the Veterans Retreat, and I can't say enough good things about just in general him doing that for our veterans and everything that he went through and all the planning and the meticulous things that he had gone through for that. And he doesn't get enough love and credit in this community. And a big shout out to Rob for that. And I'm excited that you're going to be doing the first female Backwoods BJJ retreat out there in, man, what area is that?
I believe it is in Twain Harte,
Yeah,
out in
Twain Hart.
yeah, mid California. I don't really know where you where you located.
it,
About 3 hours somewhere.
I'll tell you what, driving up, I was like, I know why he calls it Backwoods BJJ.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm bump, 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 and it was
Nice.
cool though. But the experience, man, like, when I had went out there, that was my first time seeing the property, and me and Rob had been talking, and he sent me pictures for a long time, and the experience I had was so amazing. And I just came from a belt promotion in Sonora, And literally right when we got there, Dave was getting ready to teach a lesson. And so it was like, all right, we got to get dressed. I said, what's up to everyone? And it was like, all right, let's get in there and start training. And the experience I had and getting to work with a guy like Dave and man, it's truly special. His game was very good. I've been using his knee bar tactics. I've been getting, everything shelved up, and
Mhm.
I love those techniques. They've been really working for me, and I got a few gold nuggets out of that. And just in the short time that I was there, and you're getting to do a women's retreat, and I want to talk to you about your preparation for that, and what is the planning like going into teaching a multiple day retreat.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very exciting for me. First of all, like I'm so honored that, I think there's over around 15 girls signed up, and just again, I can't say anything besides what an honor it is that that many people are excited to learn and do a retreat with me. Like, what a cool part of my jujitsu journey. And in terms of the preparation, so when I'm doing a seminar, and in this case, when I'm doing a retreat, I really want to share the things that I feel like are battle tested, that I've proven in my A game. I'm like, hey, I know this works. I've done it on, master world champions, like really gnarly people. And so that way I can feel really confident in sharing that techniques with you. Um, and so what I've done is I've said, okay, well, I know I have these A games. We're going to focus on De La Hiva, we're going to focus on K guard, and then we're going to try to have that breadth along with the depth of what to do from those positions. Um, and so I'll start with kind of oh, I know I want to show these moves, and I know I want to show these positions. And then I'll outline like what I do, like what are the common things that happen. Okay, I have my A game from De La Hiva, but what if someone, C grips my shin and frames it away? What if someone tucks my right foot? Because those are some of the most common things people are going to run into. And so then developing from there. And what I really enjoy as I outlined that out was what common meta was coming from that. And so looking at those overall themes and then getting to build on it with those in mind. So, one of the themes that I'm noticing is coming up is trying to have a guard that works on both sides of the body. So, hey, you're in, sometimes you're playing De La Hiva because their left leg's forward, sometimes you're playing K guard because their right leg's forward,
Yeah.
and you're using short X and like a modified X guard to switch between those two. And that was the big thing I noticed was, oh, you're splitting the body bilaterally, you're getting people to move side to side, or you're moving around them. And those are the ways that I tend to be able to move around people or sweep them. So seeing that come up, and just building on that meta overall. So.
Yeah. Something I learned from Dave at the Backwoods was we were talking about X guard versus inverted X, and
Mhm.
one's for lateral movement, one's for up and down movement, and
Mhm.
and the difference. And so many people were it seemed like getting a lot out of that, and it's really amazing having Dave around, and I'm sure you're always being in a jujitsu, couple, and being able to talk about jujitsu regularly with someone that's around you all the time. Like how is that?
Mhm.
And are you guys just constantly finding out new things and trying out new stuff here and there?
I would say that we, like even tonight, I had been working on some of my tech earlier today with a friend of mine just to like keep getting practice teaching it, which I would say is the other element is like rehearse teaching it a lot. I like to go in really over prepared and have like more techniques than we're gonna hit for each thing. And while I was doing that, I'm like, hey, I know I do this thing in competition, but now when I'm trying to break it down, like something isn't working, is it do I and so oh, that wasn't working, showing it to my white belt friend, or it felt kind of clunky, then I'll go, then I'm like, hey, David, like, let me show you this and just get your opinion. And even if our games are really different, we can kind of like hypothesize and like try things out. And I think having that resource is totally nice.
Oh
On the
yeah.
other hand, like we watch tape so rarely. Like he's just like bored to tears by it. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. But like finding the time between like both of us working full time and having a kid and 3 dogs and all that stuff, like
Oh yeah.
it's not the constant jujitsu. And I think both of us enjoy that balance and like that break.
Yeah, definitely. You got to have that family time and different time for different things
Mhm.
throughout your life. Work takes up a different portion, and a lot of people get addicted to jujitsu, and they want to just go all into it, and that can cause different issues and different things in their personal lives. But yeah, jujitsu can be amazing, but it can also get a little crazy at times, right?
Oh yeah, I definitely would say that I have fallen victim to that, and it's just kind of known in the household that like I need to be training consistently or we're like entering the dark times. And so yes, definitely. And I think you have to really weigh like, when you fall in love with this thing and you're like, I want to train all the time and I want to, go as far as I can, etc. Like what are you sacrificing when you
Yeah.
do that? And in the moment, you're like, everything, I don't care, but like,
It comes at
what's
a
your,
cost. Yeah.
yeah, what's your career going to look like in 10 years? Because like, there aren't that many ways to make money from jiu-jitsu besides like running a gym. And, you don't make very much like just teaching privates or, running a gym is a tough life. So
Oh yeah, trust me, I'm
it's,
here.
yeah, yeah, totally. So yeah, so I think just having a real consideration for that balance and still like you can still push a lot and really like get the full squeeze from like serious competing and like working and balancing everything.
Yeah.
Not easy, but yeah, but you can.
Yeah, very true. Where I want to ask you a question from a
Mhm.
female's perspective. Where do you see the future of women's jiu-jitsu going, especially with shows like UFC, BJJ, and
Mhm.
the growth of women's competition? And now there's well-known athletes in the women's division that people know by name, and that have kind of carved a good path for women.
Mhm.
Where do you see the future going, maybe 5 years from now?
It is, I was just watching some of the clips from the recent Polaris event with the two female teams and just seeing them like so excited at the end of it and cheering for each other. And it really just warmed my heart because seeing women get to have the spotlight in some of these events and be, main cards and stuff is so cool. And my hope is that it only keeps going. And I think that luckily, I think it will still be hard. There's not going to be as many spots available. Some people might argue that, well, maybe it's like a little less competitive, people might be able to find their way in, but there can be a lot stacked against like a woman trying to come up to, be professional. Um, so I think it's going to keep growing. And
Yeah.
I think you're just going to see more exciting events. But we have to like keep pushing for them and we have to show up if you want to. It's tough when even at like big IBJJF events like an IBJJF San Diego, I'm like, there's one or two people in
Yeah.
adult. Like, what's happening there,
Yeah.
And hey, it's good. There's more competitions than ever before, but like we have to show up if we want that kind of support to continue and to grow, so that's what I would like really encourage if I could drop a little like come on go compete like
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. It makes sense. And I think of it like this. So when I was in high school, girls were competing on the boys' team. Now wrestling programs are so big in high schools that girls have
Mhm.
a separate team. So
Mhm.
I see the growth of grappling. I feel like the millennial generation, whatever you want to call it, has something to do with pushing their daughters into
Mhm.
grappling and jujitsu and different other grappling arts like that. But it's definitely something that needs to be encouraged. Do you find it hard sometimes to get matches in the local like super fight scene because maybe you've gone up against these girls maybe 3, 4 times, or
Mhm.
these girls' competition so much, or it seems like it's this just the same few.
Mhm.
Do you find that sometimes it's hard getting matches, especially at those higher levels?
The super fight people are do a great job at finding matches. What's
Yeah.
interesting is that especially at brown and black, I think it happens more like I'm noticing now at black belt. I'm starting to go against the same few people at IBJJF matches.
Yeah.
Um, I felt like, and I wonder if part of this was like post COVID, like we were doing a lot of super fights, kind of like once we were still in COVID, and then as we were coming out, that was really the only thing that you could do.
Right.
And I actually like never fought the same person while that was going on and while I was doing those super fights. You'll notice that for like often for like a variety of reasons, the pool of women tends to shift in our like late 20s and 30s, whether you're starting families or whether you're injured or you're kind of like burnt out on competing. So I've noticed that there have only been a few people that I've seen that like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go against them. And I think now at black belt that actually might shift where I start really seeing the same people over and over again. Um, but like local tournaments, like not super fights, it's borderline impossible. I've just kind of let those go and I'll go to
Yeah.
coach the kids that I teach and stuff like that. But it is cool that super fights, I think they manage to still like get fresh people. But at a certain point, like as a lady competing at the higher belts, you got to accept you're going to fight the same people over again. And that's really cool. Like I fought this woman named Mylene. She's awesome. Her game is like really sick. And it's really fun having like gnarly competitive matches with her. Like I know it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
And you just got to frame it as like, hey, I'm excited for this. This is, every time it's a new test and like, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Sometimes, it just, you can learn from going against those competitors, and, you can learn from any type of competition if you're assessing it the proper way, in
Hmm.
my opinion. But yeah, that's it's good for you to be out there, and in the IBJJF circuit. I don't know, to me, I feel like there's so many different things popping up. It's hard for them to stay competitive, and a lot of people get burnt out seeing the same people and
Hmm.
going through the same motions. So hopefully they can figure that out and get things a little bit more attractive. Maybe adding some walls or something would change things up. I don't know if they're open to that, but yeah. So let me ask you, since getting to black belt, have you noticed a different shift in your coaching approach or anything like that? As a leader in the room, people look up to the black belts, and they're always asking questions and different
Hmm.
things like that. Do you feel a different responsibility or a different something to your students? Like,
That's a good question. I think once as a woman, once you're in the upper belts, like as long as you are excited about it, like you're gonna have people like looking to you for help and for questions. And there's a funny shift more in just like how people communicate with you or perceive you, and you're like, hey, I'm still the same person that I was at brown belt. And that part's funny. It's a little weird, but I think that maybe a little bit. I'd say the responsibility, I still feel the same. Like I'll still feel protective of making sure that there is a pipeline that is solid of new women coming into the gym, and if
yeah,
I'm feeling like, man, something's happening with that, I definitely am gonna like deep dive and kind of like be like, hey, like ask some questions, and be curious about what's happening.
yeah,
Um, I think, it is funny. I think that as as women, there's you're maybe not in a full imposter syndrome, but I think learning to say, hey, I have been doing this for a long time, and I can confidently say, like, this is how I do it, or I feel like this really works. That you can say that and you don't have to, you know, categorize it with like, well, maybe, you can come from it with confidence. And I think that that's a good thing to show, because especially, when there's only a few of, people from any demographic, like you've really earned it, and it's going to be, you have to really fight that self-doubt to show like, hey, I'm here and I belong and I've done the work, if
yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah. Let me ask you, what do you say to a woman that's interested in trying jujitsu, but it can be very intimidating going
Mhm.
into that type of environment, especially if you've never wrestled or never,
Mhm.
done any sort of competitive sport like that.
Mhm.
It definitely can be intimidating for just an average girl to go in and try out a class.
Mhm.
What do you say to a girl to try to help them overcome that?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that if someone, is saying, "Oh, I really want to try this and I'm just feeling nervous," or like, how do you go about like finding a gym or something like that? I think I would really just encourage them like, "Hey, like the beginner classes are for beginners and like you're not expected to know anything. And it's okay if you feel kind of like you're floundering for the first couple months. Like that's part of what's cool about jujitsu is that hey, maybe you have some people where they can move a little bit better, but like it overall can be kind of a great equalizer. Um, so I think saying like, don't feel like you need to be in great shape, don't feel like you need to know how to grapple or know anything before you get started. Like just go try it.
Yeah.
And the other piece is like go and try like all of the gyms in your area before you commit, and you'll see real, sometimes big cultural differences between them, and you'll be able to feel out like which environment is going to be able to support you and build you up, and which ones are like not that welcoming, they're just trying to make people tough or like put you through the ringer to, make you earn your spot or something and might not be the safest place for someone just starting.
Right.
So I think really like checking that out can be really good. And then just like that I think a lot of like women in particular, but like people in general can be hard on themselves. They might
Mm-hmm.
have high expectations. They want to do well, especially if you're more on the people pleasing side kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like just be easy on yourself, like it's going to take a long time and it's okay if you feel like you suck. Everyone feels like they suck in the beginning. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like especially nowadays you see a lot of people come in, they want that instant gratification. They want to be really good at something right off the bat, like, and it's just not like that in jujitsu. And
Mhm.
it's very rare in any of the sports to just come out and be the Michael Jordan or the Kobe Bryant or the Barry Bonds or whatever you want to say,
Mhm.
but it's really almost impossible that you're going to come out and be that great right off the bat. You got to put in
Mhm.
the hard work and the time and the energy that it takes to be that great. And also something you brought up, the sacrifice it takes to be that great.
Mhm.
Not a lot of people are willing to put in that kind of sacrifice to wake up before their day job, to go train, to get off work, have no time and train again after that. And, there's a lot of different things involved in being a world champion and being the best in the world, right?
Mhm. I think too, there's this funny pattern that I've seen that where now I've been doing it long enough where I'm like, oh yeah, that's probably gonna happen. Where there's a type of person who comes in and within a month, like you're saying, they're training twice a day, 5 days a week, and they're all in, they're always at the academy. And those people who like jumpstart like that, I tend to be like, they're gonna be gone in like 3 months, 6 months, a
Oh,
year,
yeah.
like, but they're not gonna last. And so I think making sure that you have the patience and that you don't like basically burn yourself out, and that you still have like if your identity becomes too wrapped up in your gym, in competition success, you're gonna have hard times. Like you're going to lose at some point, and that can be so hard on your ego if your whole identity is wrapped up in it. So like know that you are more than just your jujitsu skill and have that identity occur outside of the gym as well.
Yeah, very true, very true. And earlier you were saying that self-assessment, you got to
Mhm.
assess things and kind of see where your life is and is jujitsu making you a better person? And if it's not, reassess some things and reevaluate some things in your life.
Mhm.
But yeah, I have another question for you in closing. Where do you see your journey going? What are some of the big goals you have for the future of your jujitsu journey?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. Sometimes I have a hard time thinking, 5 years in the future, 10 years in the future. But I know we've got Master Worlds coming up in August, and I've done it a bunch of times, and I've gotten real close to the podium and just like been just shy of it. And, I don't like making outcome-oriented goals because you ultimately cannot control if they happen or not. But man, that would feel really good. Like it felt really good hitting gold at like Nogi Europeans and at Nogi Worlds. That was like, oh, it took me over 10 years, but I finally made it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know when that'll happen, but I would love to, keep going to finally like podium at that tournament. Um, I would love to see, I'm teaching the kids class like 6 days a week now. I'm getting to be in charge of that program. And, it's the first time where I'm not just teaching like 1 day a week or 2 days a week. Like I'm in charge and creating the curriculum. And I would love to see my students compete at a really high level, like even if it's just one or two, like see them start to break through because we've definitely had like local competition success and I'm seeing their games evolve in really cool ways that are really exciting. And so I'd love to see, a couple of them start to push the pace on that, and
Right.
get to see them experience that joy. Yeah.
Nothing better as a coach than to see those little ones experience that feeling of winning and especially battling everything that they go through emotionally and
hmm
overcoming all the obstacles to get gold at a tournament. It's as a coach one of the best things there is out there, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, and I had one mom share with me that her son had suffered a loss in competing and he was like getting silver over and over again and he's so good but his vision was competitive like repeatedly and he said, I have to talk to Coach Lauren about this because she will really understand. And that felt so good. Like I
Yeah.
was really that's what I want them to know is like, hey, there's gonna be the highs and lows and that their experience other people have gone through it and it'll be okay, and that they can
Yeah.
keep pushing and getting all kinds of things out of like competing or just training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
In closing, I just always like to say, again, thank you for taking the time out. I'm excited for your retreat coming up. I know it's going to be successful. Shout out to Backwoods for hosting the Veterans Retreat and the Women's Only Retreat. They're doing some great things. Check them out on Instagram, Backwoods BJJ Retreat. Thank you again to Lauren for being a part of this so much. Thank you to our partner, Spar Bar Soap. Type in the code word Grapplers Talk for 10% off your orders of antibacterial soap, antifungal soap. Also, check out our friends at Butterfly X. Type in code word Grapplers Talk 10 for 10% off of your rash guards and orders over there. But I would just like to give our guests just a couple minutes to thank anybody for any shout outs, anything like that. But just take a couple minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, of course, thank you, Dave, so much for having me here.
Yeah.
It's just been so wonderful. I could rap out about jujitsu all day, so
I know
this
I
is
could
awesome.
too.
And I'm really excited for the BJJ Backwoods Retreat. It's such a great opportunity to get to share jujitsu. And David and I keep talking about how, man, a seminar like it doesn't feel like you can quite like get deep enough. You're like, oh, I could have shown them this or that. And I feel like a retreat, like we're really gonna get to dive deep into some systems and how they work. And that's really exciting to me.
Yeah.
So just a huge shout out to those guys for like making it happen. And it sounds like it's gonna be an awesome time to like, be in nature. We're gonna do some like river cold plunges. I'm really excited. So it's gonna be awesome. And just get to hang out together as a bunch of ladies who do jujitsu, and that means we're all probably like pretty cool. So
Yeah.
that'll be awesome. And I want to do a huge shout out. I train over at Black Sheep Jiu Jitsu in Marin County, and I've been there since 2018 and have just seen my game evolve so much. It's incredible, like how technical they are, and so Wolf and Danny and Cole, they're all like doing such an incredible job, like leading the program, and sharing like high level technique, just like yeah, just so well. Big shout out to Knox, our family gi and no gi sponsor. Yeah, they're making awesome stuff. I always feel like I'm looking cool and it all like fits really well, which is especially important as a lady. So yeah, if you check out David Mitchell's Instagram page, you can find like a discount code there. And yeah, I think that is about it. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, it's been an absolute honor. And if people want to find you on Instagram, how do they find you and how do they get to train with you?
Yeah, I am at L Saxy. It's my last name, Lsacks with a Y at the end, just for ha-has. Yeah, welcome to, I would love to hear like if you got questions on how to compete, if you know, just need to vent about being a lady in jujitsu. Yeah, welcome to, and you can always find me at Black Sheep as well. Yeah, drop me a message if you want to come down and train.
Awesome, man. And thank you again, everyone, for tuning into the show and being a part of this. I truly appreciate all the love and support we get out there. Thank you again. This has been another great episode of Grapplers Talk. This is Dave, and we
This
are
is
out.
Grapplers Talk.